Welcome to the Storage Rebellion Show. Real conversations about building great storage businesses and becoming the kind of person capable of sustaining real freedom. Here's your host, Chris Michaels.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Storage Rebellion Show. I'm with a good friend and Storage Rebellion team leader, Anthony Kusky. Thanks for joining us, Anthony.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
Yeah, looking forward to our conversation today. We're going to get into a whole realm of different topics. But before we do, tell us a little bit about Anthony Kusky, who you are, where you're from, and give us the backstory.
All right. Yeah, Anthony Kusky, originally from upstate New York, Albany, New York, moved down to Florida at the age of 21, went to college for bowling management, which is, something that most people say, what the heck? But my dad owned bowling center, so grew up in the bowling business, grew up actually working for an entrepreneur, which kind of ties into probably where I am now because of that. But grew up in that business, was always easy. After graduating college, working for my dad for a year, running his business, came down here and basically bounced around restaurant industry for a while, bartending, stuff like that. Got into the real estate in 2004 in Orlando, wholesaling properties, and did that for about 16 years. Did probably north of 1,000 transactions on the wholesale side, a bunch of rehabs, a bunch of spec homes. Yeah. And then transitioned into some mobile home parks, transitions into storage, and kind of where I'm at now.
What led you into getting into storage in the first place?
Yeah. So wholesaling business was great. We used to do it. 2 offices would do 60 to 80 deals a year on the single family wholesale side. Did a handful of renovations in there, partnered with other people on renovations, did some tear downs throughout downtown Orlando and spec homes and things like that. And getting around 2000, maybe 18, started just to get sick of the wheel. Single family wholesaling is a constant wheel. It's a job that you're on call 24/7. In most cases. And even though you have employees and agents and things working for you, you're still there. You're still trying to build and train and do all that stuff. And really just was thinking, what else can I do to get out of this constant wheel that would create better cash flow for us? And so started looking at different avenues, doing nothing about self-storage, but always drive past these crappy mobile home parks and nice land. And I said, man, look at that. That's just, they're mobile homes, they're near the ocean and things like that. And so that's what first got me into mobile home parks and first got me excited about it. And so went through a course on mobile home park training. And like I usually do, I brought a couple of people along with me. And so I brought a guy who I was flipping houses with, and I brought another guy who worked with me on that journey. And we went through a weekend boot camp and paid for the course and went out and bought our first mobile home park.
Did you ever put storage on the mobile home or near them or no?
No, not at all. So our mobile home park journey wasn't super long. We wholesaled one. We bought this 50 lot park that was highly distressed. The 3 of us each had a little different role in the business. So my one partner would go boots on the ground there and get stuff done. I would handle the management side of it. And then my other partner was doing a lot in the due diligence research, looking for other ones and things like that. And it was similar to the single family stuff where we're renovating and things like that. But we were just looking for a value add type of thing. And it was a 50 space park. We had 45 trailers on it, only had about 20 occupied. So we went through them, we turned them around, we did rent to own, we did lease option or rent to own, we did seller financing on some, we sold some as is to investors, and then several we sold to the tenants that were in there for next to nothing, because our goal was to turn them all into tenant-owned homes, not park-owned homes. And so no desire for storage at that point, didn't know anything about it. And then I think the first time we got into storage was right about the time I think you and I first met on that one Zoom call.
Okay, that was another mastermind group. Yeah. And what was it about storage that attracted you to, as opposed to what you were currently doing?
with the mobile home parks. So by that time, I scaled back my wholesaling company. I closed one of my offices because I wasn't doing as well. And I realized even though we were doing great gross numbers, the money wasn't coming to me where it should be. And so it was me, the one partner who was in the storage, and I just had one office girl and a bunch of virtual assistants at that point, and started in that mastermind was actually several people, even though it wasn't a storage mastermind, that would talk about storage all the time. And so we sold that park in 2021, went through COVID. I dealt with all the operations, dealt with all the tenant issues. And so I remember my wife and I, right around 2021, we again sold the park. We did very well, had a really strong exit on it. And I sat down with her overnight, one night at a dinner at a restaurant that she wanted to go to. And we sat outside and I said, we have two options. We have this storage stuff, which I've been hearing a whole bunch about, and it's pretty much like mobile home parks, but I can automate it more and I wouldn't need a big team. Or we can stay in mobile home parks. I feel both are very recession resistant. I think they're both great asset fields, but one's going to be, I feel, a lot more hands on. One's going to be dealing more with the stress of day to day and tenant problems and things like that. And after that discussion, we talked about it, we prayed about it. My wife, I really think storage is the way to go. And I was like, yeah, I think so as well. In order to live the lifestyle that we want, that we're able to do it remotely and have time freedom and all that stuff. And then beginning of 2022, I jumped into Storage Rebellion and just started listening to calls and getting training and going through all that stuff.
Hey, it's Chris. We'll get back to the show in just a second. Look, I see this all the time. People try to figure this out all on their own. Then they get into the right room and everything changes. They're asking better questions. They're getting real feedback. They're looking at deals together. That's why we created the Storage Rebellion. Whether you're looking to close your first deal and you want a community and support along the way, or you're an existing storage owner ready to scale your business and yourself, we have a place for you. Visit storagerebel.com to learn more. Back to the show. Talk to me about what you've done in storage. Since I know you got a handful of deals, I believe you've done some wholesale deals, but tell me more about it.
Yeah, started in the beginning of 2022, started marketing, started again connecting with the calls and being real intentional about my time. And I think that was the big thing. I was hand addressing envelopes and doing whatever I could at night while still trying to run what we had of the single family wholesale business during the day. And September of 2022, we got our first deal under contract. And that was a very small 7,500 square foot facility in Vicksburg, Mississippi. And it came from a letter. I was an 82-year-old seller. It had 40, I actually still have it. It's under contract to sell.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What'd you buy it for? What are you selling it for?
So we actually have two of them we're selling together. So that one I bought for $350. Bought it for $350, which was tried to buy for $300. Seller was firm at $350. So I said, the only way I can get to there is if I structured it with this type of seller financing. So we actually did a 0% interest seller financing, had it for a 5-year term of seller financing, and then put 10% down. Seller was only making about $2,000 a month gross at that time. We're currently at about $5,000 a month gross. So able to more than double it. Seller was living, there's a mobile home on the property seller was living in. We now rent that out as well. And the catch on that was because he was 82 years old, his family didn't want him to go 5-year seller financing. So we could only go 2-year seller financing, which changed things a little bit. We had to get creative at that 2-year point. But so that was our first one. And that was the proof of concept. I remember getting that first text on my cell phone from ESS. And it says, a unit was just rented. And I'm getting chills thinking about it now because I remember that moment.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this crap actually works. Like this works. Like people just rented a unit. And I got so excited about it because I'm like, that was my proof of concept. And so I know a lot of us that get into business say, oh, it got bigger. But without that first one, it wouldn't have even got me in the game.
Yeah.
So that was my proof of concept. And then within about 3 months after that, I got a Facebook message from somebody in the same area that had another facility. It was only 5,500 square feet, but he's like, hey, I heard you're buying facilities in the area. I really have no time for this. I bought it a couple of years ago. And so bought that one for 120 grand, seller financing. as well.
Sure.
And so basically, we have a total between the two of them, 13,500 square feet in that market. Purchase price between the two is 470. We're under contract right now for, I don't want to jinx it, I don't know, but we're upper 600s.
Okay.
Yeah, not slam dunk home runs, but without them, I wouldn't have bought the other 50, 60,000 square feet in the other facilities I have.
Sure.
Yeah. And so we took those, we turned them around, we painted them the same, we branded them the same. One was only 20% occupancy, it's now almost 70. The other was 90% when we bought it, but 50% economic. We're now 90% and about 80% economic.
Mm.
We were able to turn them both around. And yeah, without them, it wouldn't have put me where I am today
Yeah.
of buying these other ones.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that. And have you wholesaled any storage deals, or you're mostly just buying holds, or what?
So we actually have one we're waiting to get clear title now that should have closed a couple weeks ago. Similar numbers that we're wholesaling. We have several we're working on now, but nothing, no other ones that we have wholesaled yet. So
Mm.
again, waiting on closing on that. Continuing to hope all goes well. We have as a buyer in the area that has other facilities, so a win-win scenario. And
Yeah.
the interesting thing about that one is it came from follow-up, but the when the seller was ready to sell was really out of the blue because he responded to a text message, tried to reach him, never could get a hold of him. Eventually, 2 months later, his wife, I got a hold of her, talked to her a little bit, and then nothing really happened. Checked in once or twice, no response. And then I got just a text out of the blue. Hey, we're ready to sell. Here's the price we want. Here it is. So if it probably wasn't for me continuing to follow up in that sequence
Yeah.
and just shooting out a little automated text and making a phone call and leaving a message and shooting an automated email, I would have never even gotten that one under contract. And we should be getting it closed soon, but that has not been my main focus on it. Our main
Yeah.
focus is building up cash flow on them, which we're starting to
Yeah.
see that now, which is great.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. And talk to me a little bit about, I want to back up for a minute here. So you joined the Storage Rebellion a few years back.
Mhm.
Now you're leading one of our groups within the rebellion. And I'd just be curious to hear, because one of the things that I always loved and appreciated about you, especially when you came in as a new member, is you were just always, you were one of the many folks who just wanted to give back and help people. And you always spoke up. You were always looking to support somebody. How has the group helped you grow? And then maybe we could talk about what you're doing right now as far as supporting people on their journey.
So I was in university for a while, bought that first facility, jumped into insiders. I remember my first retreat was October of 23, just closed on that first facility. I want to say that was in Buffalo. When I connected with the people in the group, it was just like a family.
Yeah.
And everyone was so open, everyone was so caring and sharing, and totally different from the wholesale side of business where it was a cutthroat business to a degree. And even though I had a group of people I would work with and we would help market each other's deals and do our best to build each other up, it was still, you were keeping secrets, industry secrets, things like that. And what I noticed of storage is it's a much smaller industry
Mhm.
and the people are more apt to help you and want to give
Yeah.
back. And so it was really encouraging to me. So just that really just sucked me into it of just, wow, this is where I found home. Yeah.
It's a special group of people. And similar to what you were saying, they come in for three reasons. They want to grow their storage business, they want to grow
Mhm.
personally, and they also want to help you do the same. And we see a lot of that happening within our insiders group. But now you're leading one of the groups that we have in the rebellion, and you're doing a great job with it. You just have that heart to give, and you really truly want to see people
Yeah.
succeed, which I love about you. And as far as you had mentioned your faith a few times, and I know you're a Christian man, and tell me a little bit
Yes.
about how that began for you.
So I didn't grow up in church. And so funny story is we were your typical Catholic. You go to
Mhm.
church, check the box Catholic. We go on
Sure.
holidays every once in a while. And my mom passed when I was really young at 10 years old. And
Mm.
so it threw our family through a whirlwind.
Sure.
And you started doing church a little more from them. But I remember going a little bit, but was never really connected.
Mm.
Moved to Florida, had your crazy time. And I remember God just placing on my heart that you need to start going to church. And I
Mm.
remember asking some people at the gym, and I was 20, probably right around 27 at that time, 26, 27, probably 26 actually. And asked some people at the gym, hey, what's a good church here in Orlando? And they directed me towards this church. And so funny how God works. A couple weeks later, I'm at this bar. Yes, God can even have you meet people at the bar, and met who is now my wife of 25 years. Met her there. Now, the funny thing is, she wasn't a partier. She barely ever drank. She just happened to be there that one night. It was nowhere near her house, it was on the totally opposite side of town. And I was I had a couple relationships going on. Let's just say that. And I met her, and she was smart, funny, beautiful. Went to this church that this other people said. I was like, man, this is just God. And I
Yeah.
remember we were engaged in a month, married in a
Wow.
year. But
Wow.
it was funny because even God was like we hung out for a little bit, and then she's, yeah, that's not me. I'm not a partier. I'm not this. I'm not that. But it was what God had to use for us to be able to connect, because I was in that scene. And I can't say that it was an easy transition, but
Mhm.
God has radically changed my life over the last 25 years to where none of us are ever going to be free of sin. But through my relationship with Christ has helped me. So, where whatever your sin was in the past, now it's like you get mad at somebody driving, and I'm like, all right, God, I shouldn't do that. Oh, sorry. It's like he has changed my heart so much in that. And I think that's part of the reason why I coach baseball. It's part of the reason why I want to give back to these groups, because by all means, I am not perfect, but God just has continued to change my life over these 25 years, to where I love seeing the change in other people. And should they take the same faith? Great. Should they not? Hey, that's their choice. For me,
Yeah.
it's what has gotten me to where I am. And I could care less about the business side of it, but just health wise, spiritually, emotionally, marriage wise, and relationally, it's where I am today because of my relationship with Christ.
Yeah. Dude, that's a awesome story. I appreciate you sharing that. I'm curious. It sounded like God was really moving for you and helping you find your wife. Is there another time that sticks out to you where it was just it couldn't be more obvious? It was like, wow, this is totally God moving, working right now, whether that
Right.
was personally or professionally. I'd be curious if that's something you'd be open to sharing.
Yeah, I'm going to share, which I said to my wife last night, and I may tear up again about it. But this last year and a half has been challenging. We've had some family stuff go on with my oldest son, and we fostered in between, and had some different stuff go on where our hearts have just been broken a lot. One shoulder surgery, now the other shoulder surgery. She fell, hurt herself. She just had arm surgery. And
Wow.
I was telling her, yeah, so it's been a challenging year and a half for
Hmm.
sure. But yesterday, all I could remember was, man, and you even yesterday, like you sending us food, and just how much we have been loved, and
Hmm.
how much God has shown his love to us through other people, especially these last 2 months. Because I have my wife who has injured arm, me injured shoulder, and the amount of meals that came, and even my dad coming today to help dig stuff out of the ground, and people, just so many different things of driving us places and picking us up. And it's amazing to see how, even though life is never going to be perfect and it's never going to be easy, be able to look back through all these struggles. And even in my son's life, we're not restored, but seeing the way God is moving into his life, because he got in a very challenging relationship, and just seeing how he, and hearing stories of how he's coming back to the church. It's like there's so many blessings in that. It's just hard to
Yeah.
say, how can not God be taking care of us through all this time? And that's just one of just so many
Yeah.
stories of protection and
Mhm.
love and care through the church, and just through him and his
Yeah.
body.
Isn't it amazing how we go through these challenges in life and it's difficult to see it at the time, but it isn't until a little bit later on where you can look at it and be like, wow, God was actually moving in that time. And maybe it was hard to see it through the trees. Funny because I've had many times in my life where we've gone through difficult seasons. And it wasn't until after the season that I was able to actually see, oh, I was actually going through that. God was actually preparing me for something else. And it's hard to see that when you're in the moment. And one of the things I've tried to
Yeah.
start incorporating more of is how I frame difficult seasons. Instead of looking at it as, why is this happening to me? Why I don't deserve this, or like feeling down on myself about it. I've
Mhm.
started to ask, God, I wonder what you're doing in this. I wonder what's happening
Right.
here. I wonder how you're shifting or moving things or working through me during this challenge. Because ultimately, I'd be curious to hear your
Mhm.
take on it. Every challenge I've gone through has led me to something better. There's always a lesson in everything. And if things are going well all the time, I don't think we
Mhm.
can grow a whole lot. I think we grow the most during these
Right.
challenging times when we're really tested. But I'm curious to hear your take on it.
And the Bible tells you it's like you're not going to be without problems. I think it's Paul that says you're going to have challenges in this world. And I forgot my frame of thought, but I would say every challenge that we've been through, looking back on them, we have grown through that challenge. We have grown in our faith and we've grown in the struggles. And whether it was through, I mean, we went through short sale, we
Mhm.
went through a tough real estate market, we went through me and separation and almost divorce. And there was a lot of challenges, but through every single one of those, God continued to bring people into our life that helped us to grow. And it's funny, I was reading our devotional this morning and I lead a men's group at our church and kind of do some devos in there. I tell people, hey, I'm going to do them anyway. If you want to jump in, I'll share them with you, whether you do them or not. I don't really care, but I'll pick stuff that I think applies. And the thought to me this morning, as reading it, we need that community around us of people. And I think they talk about it. I don't know if it's who they talk about. I can't remember if it's Rockefeller or something. They talk about the original mastermind, but God really created the original mastermind because he
Mm.
created the disciples to be around him. He had brought those people around him to sharpen him. Into my head, Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens the other. He brought that to us to be able to build each other up, to encourage each other, to walk arm in arm with each other. And so, through every single challenge, yeah, it's not easy. And there's still stuff going on in our lives that I don't understand. And my wife has to remind me sometimes that you don't know what God is working behind it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I answered your question specifically because I lost my thought a little bit, but we
No,
just
no,
have to trust.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think trust is the biggest one, which is certainly it can be challenging, right? Especially when
Yeah.
you're going through those tough seasons. It can be challenging for sure. And so I appreciate you opening up and sharing all that.
For
And
sure.
if it's okay with you, I'd love to touch on transition a little bit, touch on some storage specifics. What are you seeing in the market and how are you seeing other people be successful right now?
So for us, as I said before, we have the four facilities. They all are doing very well. We've talked to brokers who have come in and looked at our facilities and say, wow, we haven't seen this stability. Most people we talk to, we don't see this stability, 90 plus occupancy, 80-ish percentage economic occupancy. And so for me, what I'm seeing now, we are in tertiary markets outside of big cities or decent sized cities, to say a second tier city. We are in it in a daily basis as far as looking at our facilities, making sure our specials are in line, making sure we're in line with the competition and things like that. So, from a management side of it, just being into it, even though storage is, people say it's passive, it's not. You do
Mhm.
have to run it like a business.
For
And so,
sure.
just being aware what the competition is doing has been why our storage facilities are doing very successful. As far as talking to sellers, I talk to sellers every day. We do a lot of different marketing out there and talking to brokers. I still feel prices are high. I still
Mhm.
feel some of these deals that are coming out. that get put on an email. I'm like, there's no way they're getting that $80 a square foot or something for a distressed drive up or something like that. So I still
Mhm.
feel numbers are high. I feel
Yeah.
sellers are getting more realistic. And really, storage is a long game.
Yep.
Yeah. When I talk to people, I said, hey, I got three things. Either I'm just calling to have a conversation, see if people either want to sell now, sometimes down the road, or maybe in just a chat storage. So if any of those three things work, just let me know. And nine out of
Mhm.
10 times it's, hey, let me follow up in 6 months, or hey, go ahead and you can send me an offer. And then, hey, let's follow up down the road. So
Mhm.
for me, it's just what I'm seeing is the better relationships you build, the better pipeline you build, the more
Mhm.
success you're going to have long term. But it's just having to stay consistent at it. And those that I talk to in the industry that are doing well, it's being on there, doing the thing that's the highest value, which is talking to sellers. And as
Mhm.
long as you can do that, you will be successful. It just takes time.
Yeah. Actually, we did an episode a few back with Nick Paul. We were talking about similar
Mhm.
to this, the consistency, talking to sellers, talking to owners. And one of the things that I mentioned to Nick was a lot of people are focused on how many sellers can I
Right.
talk to today? And I would say it's not necessarily about how many calls you've made today, but how many
Mhm.
relationships did you build today? And similar to what you said, this is a long game and it does take the relationship, it takes the follow up process. And it
Mhm.
sounds like you're walking that path as well. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually have somebody who calls for us, which allows me to have quality conversations.
Yeah,
As
that's
you know, I'm
awesome.
a talker. So if I'm on the phone 30 minutes with somebody, I have zero issue. Because to me, I'm
Mhm.
taking notes and I'm building relationships and just taking the time. I'd rather have, if I can have one quality conversation a day with somebody, I don't need to have 20 calls. Just give me a
Mhm.
quality conversation. Next day, give me a quality conversation. Somebody that I can follow up with or see next time I'm in town. That's where I want to have my gold every single day.
Yeah, it's in
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I love that, and that starts to compound over time, and we look at especially in the insiders group, some of the most successful members in our group, this is how they're doing it. They're building their
Right.
portfolios based off of the number of relationships that they've built, and so I always like to key in on that and tell people that should be a primary focus. As far as new people getting into storage for the first time, what are some of your biggest pieces of advice, some of the things that they should really focus on doing in order to get that first deal?
I always use the term massive imperfect action. So, whatever it is, just go out and do it. So, the only way you're going to get a storage facility is by making offers. So, if you don't make offers, you're never going to get it. The great thing is you have a due diligence period. So, you have either two options. One, you get declined, you still took action and you learned something. Two is you get it accepted. Now, it doesn't matter what the price is, anything like that, that all comes out in the due diligence. But if you're not taking massive action, then you're not going to succeed. And so, my goal and desire is hoping to take those that are sitting on the sidelines watching it quietly and build their confidence enough so they can take action and
Yeah.
get that first rejection. I've put out 20 ish offers this year, which is I try to do at least 1 to 2 a week. But if you're, and I've gotten rejected on all of them, that's just part of the game. But I have
Yeah.
a follow up for every single one of those people. And in 6 months, I call them again. And in
Yep.
6 months from there, I call them again. So just take an action every single day and something that's going to bring you closer to your goal. Because we can all sit there and spend our time in trainings, and it's
Mhm.
great. But you're not going to get anywhere if I'm just reading books and listening to podcasts and watching training videos until I'm actually talking to sellers. So whatever we need to do to get in front of those sellers, got to do it. I joined my first online mastermind around 2018, was just a online version. Never knew anything about it. It was like 2,400 bucks for the year. And my eyes got opened up so much because you don't know what you don't know until you're around other people. And
Yeah.
that's the same thing in faith. Like, you don't know what you go, and I can open the Bible and I can read and I'll be like, wow. But until I'm having active conversations with other believers, until I'm having active conversations with other real estate investors or mobile home park investors or storage investors, you don't know what you don't know until you start prodding your mind to think.
Yeah.
And so for me, once I got into my first mastermind and subsequently into Storage Rebellion, I had no idea the depth of the business, the things I didn't know until I got in there. You accelerate your growth so much more being in it. Absolutely. And so many of us look at cost. Like one storage deal. So three out of four of my storage deals, I walked away from the closing with a check. And those checks were 5 times the amount I paid for Storage Rebellion for a year, every single check. So to think that if I would have jumped into it sooner, like I talked to a guy yesterday who's 24 years old in storage. I was like, man, I wish I was 24 years old in storage. I'm 52. If I knew the old adage, if I knew then what I know now, I would have jumped into masterminds back in the early 2000s when people just started talking about them.
As far as the first close group, right? We got newer investors coming in. What are you seeing as some of the biggest issues or challenges that newer investors are facing?
I would say confidence. Confidence is the biggest thing. And it's the what if. And that's why I say of making offers, because I think the fear of what happens if I get it accepted? What happens if I make this offer and they say yes, then what do I do? And the great thing about storage, and I didn't believe it until I got into it, and I kept hearing this within the group, is it is such a slow moving machine
Yeah.
that it's hard to make too many mistakes because it's like a cruise ship. You start inching it just a little bit that it's going to turn so slowly. And so once you get into the business, it's easy to say it's easy. When you're surrounded by the right people in the right environment, it's easy to go ahead and figure it out. And for those that are just sitting on the sideline or those, I got a great example. I have a gentleman that just joined First Close, known him for years, very successful real estate investor, very successful property manager and broker and all this stuff, known him for almost 20 years probably. He just joined the group. He's, you know what? I'm going to jump in because even though I have all this stuff, I want to learn what I can all about storage. Now, this is someone who's extremely experienced in real estate, someone who I look up to, someone who has mentored me in different ways. And coming into our group saying, hey, Anthony, I want to be where you are because I've seen how storage has changed you over the last couple of years. And I want to make sure I get the right tools and the right training to be successful on it. And if you think about that, the decision comes from what do you really want to do?
Sure.
And where do you want to be in 5 years? You can sit here and look on the sideline and sit there on the sideline and be like, oh, wow, here's the time I got in and look at the change. Or you can look back and be like, wow, I wish I got in 5 years ago when prices were cheaper, where would I be in that time? So
Yeah.
it's just getting in there and making yourself vulnerable is the biggest word.
I love that. I was going to say, you had mentioned a couple of really good things, right? Confidence in taking action. And I see this all the time with newer investors. The fear of the unknown, right? I'm new. I don't know what I don't know. And what happens if I make a mistake? And that, for me personally, I've seen hold a lot of people back. And I want to piggyback off of what you said, just to hopefully put some newer investors at ease. Storage is very slow moving. And if you structure your contract the right way, and once you come into the Rebellion too, we take care of this for you. You can use our templates and contracts, but there is a verbiage in the contract that states that you can back out of the deal during that 45-day due diligence period without losing your deposit. And so a lot of people think once I go under contract, what happens at that point? What if I'm wrong? What if I made the wrong offer? You still have time to figure it out. It is very slow moving, and it makes it a lot easier when you're in the right group and you can bring a deal to people and analyze it together and say, hey, did I drop the ball somewhere? Where am I maybe missing something? And so I think that's huge. I'm glad you brought that up. Dude, I appreciate your time thus far. I have one more question for you.
Sure. Absolutely.
It's been fantastic. What would be the biggest piece of advice you'd love to leave people with today, either personally or professionally?
Personally, it's pretty easy. It's like you need to have a relationship with your maker. If you don't have a relationship with Christ, then and have even just some sense of faith. But if you don't have that faith, and for me, it's Christ, life's going to be challenging. And like that has been my anchor. And knowing that no matter what has happened, God's in control of it. And you may not see it in the storm, but being able to look back on it, I can see it now. And professionally, it's what I said before, it's take action and make sure you have a community of people around you. And I don't say that to pitch Storage Rebellion or any group, but I have some very good friends in here in this group where I reach out to them and be like, man, I'm having a tough day. Or, hey, can you look at these numbers? Or vice versa. They call and be like, I don't feel like doing anything today, or I've been in this funk lately. And if you
Yeah.
don't have that band of brothers, band of sisters, whatever you want to call it around you, life is going to be hard. So make sure you have people around you that's going to sharpen you like a sword.
I love it. Anthony, thank you so much for being here, brother. I appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to the Storage Rebellion Show. For resources, support, and a community that has your back, visit storagerebel.com. We'll see you next time.